Good evening and welcome to the Whatcom County Council meeting, which I would like to call to order. It's February 23rd, 2016, and may we have the roll call.
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Rud Browne.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ken Mann.
Here.
Satpal Sidhu. Carl Weimer.
Here. Okay, could you please stand and join me in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have your cell phone with you tonight, would you please turn it off or place it on vibrate? And if you'll be handing out paperwork to council members for either the open session or the public hearings, please give one copy to the clerk for our files. We had a committee of the whole this afternoon at 3:30, and we had 3 items. We had a briefing and discussion on Comprehensive Plan Chapter 2. We also discussed and gave preliminary direction on Comprehensive Plan Chapter 1, Introduction and Growth Projections. And we also discussed and gave preliminary direction on Comprehensive Plan Chapter 4, Capital Facilities. We just got out of executive session. We had an update from Whatcom County Sheriff Bill L.L.C regarding jail use agreement negotiations with the City of Bellingham. We have 4 sets of minutes to consider this evening. First one is Special Committee of the Whole for November 10th, 2015. Regular Council for November 10th, 2015. Committee of the Whole for November 24th, 2015. And Committee of the Whole for December 8th, 2015. Do I have a motion?
Also moved.
Second. I have a second. Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0.
I was abstaining because I wasn't here.
You were abstaining. Okay.
I was out there, but I wasn't.
5-0 and 1 with Sidhu absent. Excused. Okay, we'll move into our public hearing. Audience members who signed up at the back of the room prior to the beginning of our meeting will be called first and are asked to form a line on either side, please, behind the signs. If you are unable to sign up before the meeting, you will be given an opportunity to speak once we've gotten through all the folks listed on the hearing sheets. Each speaker should state his or her name for the record and will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Council staff will keep track of time limits and will let you know when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up, and then she will give a time, which means your 3 minutes is up. When a large group of individuals supports the same position on an issue, we encourage the selection of 1 or 2 representatives to speak on behalf of the entire group. So our first public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the installation of stop signs on Jackson Road at the intersection of Bay Road. Do we have any kind of a staff report? Or is everybody good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Come on down, Joe.
Who needs a staff report? I don't think we need a staff report.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, actually, I have a question for Joe.
okay, we do need it.
Well, not a report, just.
Jerry Town with Public Works.
Have you got the steps down right now?
Yeah.
My question is simply, is this going to increase or decrease safety or be neutral?
This will increase safety, and I'd also point out that the 2 ordinances go together. The speed ordinance that follows this and the stop sign are intertwined.
Right, so this is consistent with national safety standards?
Absolutely. If we indeed lower the speed limit to 25 as proposed, then we can recommend this under the warrant listed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I shall open the public hearing. We have no one signed up on our sign-in sheet, but would welcome people to come down if you'd like to talk about stop signs on Jackson Road. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner.
Just that they invited me to go out with them, and I did, and it's so dangerous. I mean, I had no doubt they were going to come to this conclusion, but I'm glad they moved it along so fast. And it's actually in there about the safety. So I thought you guys did a great job of making it clear in our packet.
Other discussion? Seeing none, can we have the roll call, please?
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Sidhu excused. Our next public hearing is an ordinance establishing speed limits on portions of Jackson Road and Bay Road in the Birch Bay area. And again, we have no one signed up for the hearing. Would anyone like to speak to us on speed limits? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and what's the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll call, please?
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Sidhu excused. Now we'll move into our open session. During open session, audience members may have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record. If your last name is something other than Smith or Jones, please spell it for the clerk and make sure to speak directly into those microphones. Stand behind the signs located in the aisles as courtesy to others, and we thank you in advance for your cooperation. So those who'd like to address the council, come on down.
I'm Vern Yaden. I'm a Whatcom County Support Officer, and I'd like to speak about the safety on Kendall Road. My last name is spelled Y-A-D-O-N. As I said, I'm a support officer for East Whatcom County, and as a support officer, I am called out on CPR calls, fatalities, and death notifications. I'm also the chairman of the Kendall-Columbia Valley Connectivity Plan Association. We're a nonprofit corporation trying to build a trail for safe passage of people in the Kendall-Columbia Valley. During the Christmas holidays, through the assistance of Representative Luann Van Werven, WSDOT, and the Whatcom Council of Governments, we were able to file an application to the House Capital Budget Committee for funds for engineering and design for such a trail. Our sentiment is that as we spend millions of dollars for the safe passage of fish, that spending money for the safe passage of humans, especially for young people and low-income mothers as they traverse a dangerous highway on their way to essential services, is a no-brainer. On January the 27th, as a support officer, like Job of old, the thing that I feared came upon me. Up to that day, my greatest fear was to have to notify a parent that their child had been killed on Kendall Highway for lack of a bike and pedestrian trail. That night, my fear became a reality. I had to notify 2 sets of parents of a needless tragedy. At 6:35, I was dispatched to the scene of a fatality of an unknown nature. After the 5-minute drive from my home, I came across the most heart-rending scene of the still body of a young man and a destroyed bicycle. 14-year-old Jordan Sant was riding home on his bicycle in a pitch-black stretch of Kendall Highway during a driving rainstorm. An innocent man doing a neighbor a favor was on his way to notify his neighbor that the wind had blown his fence down when all of a sudden out of the darkness came a mysterious object. On impact, the innocent driver thought he had hit an animal until the face of an innocent teenager boy appeared on his windshield. All of this happened in such a short time span that the death of this young man could not be averted.
30 seconds, please.
The sorrow that is left in this tragic wake overwhelmed not only the parents of the young man, but also the innocent man whose memory is stamped with a horrific image on his windshield. As members of the Kendall-Columbia Valley Connectivity Plan, we are asking that the County Council, in cooperation with the state, remedy this situation before we have another tragedy of this nature. Thank you. And I would like to have the father of Jordan Sant come and say a few words, if I might.
It's pretty hard to follow. My name is Preston Sant, Jordan Sant's dad. It's a really bad road. You guys, if you go out there tonight, you can see it's a no-brainer. It's bad. I live on South Pass Road. My boy's friends live in the Kendall area. There's several communities in there. And all of his friends live there. I can't keep him home. It's not fair. You know, he's got to be able to go to the store, to the library, the community center, all those places that are available for those kids. It's like a mile down the street to have a trail system that these guys have been working on for 2 years now, which would have been huge. It would have kept my kid completely off the road. I can't imagine how, you know, and then, you know, the traffic is stopped. We're going to the school things and whatnot, and the traffic stopped for, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and I found out that they're changing the culvert to make the safe passage for the fish. And I love fish. I work on fiberglass boats. Fishing industry is huge. But in Kendall area, we really need this trail. And they're not asking for, traffic lights and all this other stuff. Just a trail to keep these kids off the road. And, I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. And there's people, the community doesn't have a lot of money. It's an area where most of people are like poverty level. So there's women with children in strollers going to the library or to the store. There's 2 churches, a community center, and a library, everything on Kendall Road, but no access, no way to get there, except for, maybe this much on a road that they finally dropped down to 45 miles an hour, which took an act of God, from my understanding, because it's a state highway and it's supposed to be 55. The elementary school had a 55-mile-an-hour zone directly in front of it, and at certain times it was from 55 to 20. This is the same road that my son has to ride his bike on to go, or had to ride. I don't have a son no more. The only thing I can do is to try to help these other kids so they have a safe passage to go to their friend's house or to one of the rec center or whatever. They got beautiful things for kids to do, but it doesn't do you any good to have places for them to go if they can't get there safely. So, that's all I've got to say. I'm really sorry. So, that's it. Thanks.
Mr. Brown.
Sir, if I, sorry, sir. Sorry. First of all, I'd just like to say I feel great sympathy for your situation. Having lost my own brother when he was 16. I was recently in Olympia and I spoke to 5 of the 6 state representatives who represent Whatcom County on this very issue, and I think they all view it very favourably in terms of getting support for the funding for this. So I'm just sorry it couldn't have come earlier.
Dan McShane, 1451 Grant Street. I came for 2 reasons this evening, and one was, I guess you had a presentation earlier today at the Natural Resource Committee regarding the trail plans for the Lake Whatcom Park, and just want to reiterate my support for that and appreciate the park's efforts in their planning. I thought that they did a very good job of outreach to the community, including a group that I've been participating in that we call the Whatcom Outdoor Coalition. And I just wanted to name the names of those, and we were all supportive of this, and they wanted me to speak tonight in support of the park's plan for the trails. It's Bob Aggerdu, Arlene Bogards of the Washington Trail Association, Eric Brown and Mark Peterson of the Whatcom Mountain Bike Coalition, Mitch Friedman of the Conservation Northwest, Bud Hardwick of Mount Baker Club, Rand Jack of the Whatcom Land Trust, Mike McGlenn and Sharon Hoofnagel of the Backcountry Horsemen, Dan McShane, Lisa McShane, Daniel Probst, the Cascade Mountain Runners, and David Wallin. So I just appreciate the efforts in and that we support the park plan. I thought it was really well done and good outreach. The other thing that just caught my attention today when I was just looking at your agenda, and I really want to appreciate that it was been brought forward, and that's the recognition of Wolf Bauer that you have as a resolution before you. He really is a legendary figure in Washington State and is synonymous with Birch Bay from a scientific perspective, and his reach extended much further than that. He was way ahead of his time, and it was really unfortunate that other areas of Washington State did not heed some of the information that he was presenting regarding shoreline processes. Would have saved a lot of money for Washington State at that time. So thanks for bringing that forward. I think it's a well thought through resolution.
My name is Daniel Probst with Cascade Mountain Runners, and I also support what Dan said, that the Parks Department has done a great...
Could you get a little bit closer? Yeah.
Just pull the mic down to you.
That over the last 2 years, the Parks Department has done a good job at looking at how to balance conservation and recreation, and that this plan that was before you today is a good plan. I believe that we should make sure to keep it open so that it can be modified in the future. But I think going forward now, it's a good plan that we can start with and we can work with. I'm also excited to be here to tell you that we're starting on, we're working on, well, this June we're doing another run to Baker and back. And so I actually have friends flying a friend flying in from Australia, one coming from Arizona, and one coming from Oregon. We have a team of 10 right now. They're going to do the run to Baker and back. And to support building the Bellingham Mount Baker Trail, and trying to get our race off the ground. But as you prioritize trails, I absolutely support the Kendall Trail first. We're actually, for our trail, not proposing any funding from the county other than just staff time. So we're trying to do this as a completely privately funded trail. So we just need the county council and park staff to be able to help move this trail plan forward. And as soon as the plan is adopted, there's been a lot of companies actually propose offering grants to us. So REI, the last 2 years, REI has offered $5,000 a year in grants for trails in the watershed. But until we move along with the plan, we can't act on those grants. So yeah, I'm just here to support the plan and think we can move forward with it as it is now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shorty Bjornstead. I've lived in the Columbia Valley area for about 27 years in the urban growth area. When I first moved up there was probably 100 people that lived there full time. Rest was mostly Canadians and weekenders. I guess now, depending on who you want to talk to, the population in the area is about 3,000. When I first moved up there, this is what we got from county government. The snow plow showed up usually about 2 days after the snow melted. I'll swear you could shoot somebody, put the body in the front yard, and a day or two later a sheriff would come by and, just to see if it was really there or not. Lots changed in that time. A lot of that is, I'm going to give credit to a guy that isn't here anymore, and that's Pete Crennan. He actually took an interest in the area when he was there, and he came up quite a bit during that time, and we've seen some improvements. And I think a lot of neat things have happened during that period of time. You guys, we got that nice resource center up there. I hear that this summer they're going to chip seal all the county roads in the area and whatnot. And I think that's neat. I also went to a meeting the other day where they're going to put in another building up there by the resource center, I guess they're understanding, that's going to be mostly used for recreational, for the kids. But, you know, one thing that I even suggested at the meeting was put in playgrounds in areas, you know, so the kids can come and have an area in a park-like setting. Moms could sit at a picnic table while their kids were on the swing. The only way to get to there, because 90% of the population is on the east side of the road, and recreational centers on the west side of the highway. So, to me, something has to be done. I'm having a heck of a time following the last two speakers that were up here, obviously, and they gave a very good pitch, but at the same point, everybody says that's a state highway. The county is the one that put those developments there. The county is one that made developments so that 4,000 or 3,000 people could live in 2.5 mile area. So I don't think it's really fair for the county then to slough it off and say, well, that's a state highway, we're walking away. I think the responsibility falls on you guys just as much as it does with the state. Like Vern stated, there's been
30 seconds, please.
you know, about a dozen of us for the last 2 or 3 years have been working with this problem. Working, you know, got the roundabout put in, the speed limits around the school changed. Kind of fun, we fought with the state for, I don't know, 6 months to get a 10-mile lower speed limit from 55 to 45, you know. And it's all been a good time, but there's a seriousness to this too. And I don't think we want any more of that seriousness, and I would like to just see somebody somehow make the problem go away.
Time.
Thanks. My time's up.
Ms. Brenner?
Oh, I have a question for our staff. I would like to get a presentation. This was a big safety issue. It was in the making for a long time, and maybe Director Hutchings can come up. I'd like to know what we can do to push this forward with the state.
John Hutchings, Public Works Director. So there have been a lot of activities over the course of before this this tragic event occurred, in conversations with Mr. Yaden and others in the community, and that has been going on for quite some time. So there is definitely a fair amount that the administration should be able to share with you, and we would love to schedule that opportunity. In fact, County Engineer Joe Rutan and Roland Middleton and myself will be up in that community tomorrow, looking at some opportunities to deal with some of the county roads up there as well. And we've made some commitments to have some further conversations with the community. And I think we would like to share some of that, some of the discussions the Parks Department has had, as well as planning and development services. So there's a lot going on, and that would be appropriate, and we'll follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dorley Booth, Birch Bay. I'd like to pay tribute to Wolf Bauer tonight from the Birch Bay Chamber and from the Birch Bay community. Born in Germany in 1912, Wolf Bauer is considered the father of both mountaineering and kayaking in Washington State. Founder of the groundbreaking Mountaineers Climbing Course, the Mountain Rescue Council, and the Washington Kayak Club. He was an important force in the rise of outdoor culture in Washington State. Navigating the rivers of western Washington, he developed a passion for shoreline environments and formulated a curriculum for what he termed geohydrology, the study of how water works on land, specifically in the Puget Sound Basin. His environmental contributions include the preservation of the Green River Gorge Conservation Area, participation, authorship of the Shoreline Management Act of 1972, and the design and/or restoration of over 30 public waterfront parks and beaches throughout western Washington and British Columbia. A pioneer and inspiring outdoorsman and conservationist, Wolf Bauer's legacy touches everyone who lives in the Northwest, whether they recognize his name or not. Bauer managed to remain anonymous to most of the public, yet his contributions to Washington state landscape cannot be overstated. Mr. Bauer's 1975 report titled Birch Bay Shore Resource Analysis is the foundation for the current design of the shoreline restoration of Birch Bay Drive and pedestrian facility project. The Birch Bay community was hoping to honor Mr. Bauer with this resolution on his 104th birthday, which would have been tomorrow, February 24th. But sadly, he passed away on January 23rd. We are appreciative that Whatcom County Council hereby supports and asks the Committee on Geographic Names to recommend to the Board on Geographic Names, when the time is appropriate, that the land form at the mouth of Terrell Creek be evermore known as Wolf Bower Point. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Karen Brown. I'm here as a citizen, and I would like you to please not pass the Whatcom County Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan tonight. It's got flaws in it, and this is in there. The biggest one, well, it may not be the biggest one. They claim we have 35 inches of rain. State climatologist just emailed us, and we have 75 inches, according to the state. There's full of flaws in here. The other one that caught my eye is they are telling you to take flood control zone money to purchase and maintain parks. That's so totally wrong. Thank you.
My name is Joy Gilfillan. I'm president of the Restorative Community Coalition. I'm here to speak on behalf of the incarceration issues. Thank you all for taking action to establish the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force. Thank you, Councilman Buchanan, Mann, and Weimer, for the current resolution to encourage the cities, tribes, and county to work together in unison to establish guiding principles that inform accountable management of our criminal justice and behavioral health systems. At the same time, it has been over 10 months since this council was put on emergency alert that inhumane conditions existed inside the jail. On April 9th, 2015, the sheriff wrote a letter to the council acknowledging the critical situation and indicated that he had no plan to solve the problem other than building a new jail. Why not? His job is emergency management, and this project is an operations management problem. Even if funded, the jail conditions would have still existed. So why is it okay that he spends so much time campaigning, doing press events, and not taking care of the citizens given into his trust and care? Ironically, the sheriff has not presented an emergency relief plan to resolve the inhumane conditions that would stop the ongoing trauma being perpetrated on our citizens. It seems that he has not complied with the remedies available to the administration through Whatcom County Code 128-100. Remedies such as expanding good time, a remedy that has been done several times in the past. Remedies such as releasing nonviolent people early, as allowed for in Whatcom County Code 128-100. Remedies like examining the 15 ways that our administration could stop overcriminalizing our citizens through revenue-generating actions. Why not look at stop putting so many people in by stacking charges, doing excessive continuances, and reducing bail? Are these appropriate behaviors, or is it time for the council to investigate? I ask you, why is it that the average length of stay has gone from an average of 9.7 days to over 22 days, especially when the actual serious crime rates have dropped 25% over the past few years? Is it possible that our executive branch is keeping the jail full so that the council is pressured into providing more funding? Why is it that suddenly, in the comprehensive plan, the council is being asked to allow the facilities department to expand the jail space without public discussion or consideration? Is this an attempt to bypass the council and to bypass citizens' checks and balances on funding? I am asking for emergency intervention by this council to enforce Whatcom County Code 128-100 regarding the ways that overcrowding can be addressed administratively so that inmates do not have to be transferred to other jurisdictions or
30
mistreated.
seconds, please.
People inside our jail are being traumatized on your watch. And according to the Whatcom County Charter, you do have the capacity to intervene and call for an investigation into the operations of the facility. I urge you to do so. We submitted a request for investigation to the task force and to the Whatcom County Ethics Commission, both of which were arbitrarily rejected. As a result, this has become a PDC issue and a state issue. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Irene Morgan, county resident. I'm honored to be here and to have been appointed to the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force. The letter you're getting here is what I have researched about the task force and the things that I have found missing on the website. It's because that I value transparency that I have presented my findings to you of my experience of the task force. In this letter, you'll find my praise for our co-chairs and for their tireless efforts on behalf of the task force and our community. I also state my concerns for what I see as a lack of WAHA's duties to present the public with a full and timely information regarding this task force. I also believe that this task force is doing a good job in bringing many of the solutions forward that can be effective in our goal, reducing and preventing incarceration. And I thank the three of you council members, Buchanan, Mann, and Weimer, for your forward thinking in your resolution and statement of incarceration and prevention, criminal justice, and jail planning principles for Whatcom County. That you are looking at other actions that can be taken to reduce incarceration and lessen the burden on our justice system. I am also grateful to know that our coalition's work in the past few years has been heard and that our work has not been in vain. I am also excited to learn of Bellingham's actions regarding their electronic home monitoring solution. I look forward to more of these actions to free both our jails and courts to reduce that burden on our system. I find it disturbing that the sheriff and prosecutor still are not willing to consider some of the successful programs in other communities that are considered to be low-hanging fruit and could and would lower the jail population without endangering public safety. The Restorative Community Coalition continues toward our goal, reclaiming lives and supporting those who have conviction histories to become fully functional citizens. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I am Linda Kathleen Stead. My son, I have no glasses, so pardon me. My son has been in jail 60 days as of today. As my son's legal guardian, mother, friend, I have attempted and have made an attempt to ensure Sean's civil rights as an intellectually handicapped citizen were afforded to him. In the summer of 2015, my son requested to stop his medication and try to use his skills to overcome his mental challenges. This request was not looked upon lightly by me and was not undertaken without the direct knowledge and support of my son's mental health provider, who agreed in a three-way meeting at our residence in Kendall that if my son were to digress in his condition, his mental health provider would come out, act accordingly, get my son to the hospital where he would be reevaluated and placed back on his shot and his daily medication for social paranoia and anxiety. Once, over a 3-week time frame of calling support, I called them because I saw the decline. And they finally came out, but then they left immediately and left me in a critical situation. That night, I was abandoned and I was told, call 911 if you need help. I had mental health provider come back as an arrangement. This complex issue, if he had come back that night, like I expected him to do, this issue would not be here at all. Instead, I was put in a position of contacting 911 when no one returned to help my son. When 911 was made aware of my son's medical health issues, there was no mental health protocol followed. Instead, they sent the sheriff's department, and even though I personally took the time to explain to them what was going on with my son and his condition, he was treated like a criminal, charged with 3 felonies, and this was all in one incident.
30 seconds, please.
My son has been traumatized, criminalized, isolated for 60 days. And he is not on all his medications, and they improperly gave him his medications. Anyone who accepts this form of behavior from a police department is encouraging a bureaucratic system. That's the only person who's benefiting here.
Time.
No proper medication, no proper form of jail for my son's mental health. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Price. I live in Whatcom County. Thank you for creating the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force. They've been working hard and brought great speakers to the table. Specifically, I encourage all of you and the citizens too to listen to the talks by Brian Beggs with Smart Justice and by Mark Cook with the ACLU, and especially the talk by King County Under Sheriff Jim Pugel, who founded the highly effective LEAD program, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. These leaders are taking right action and have great recommendations that our executive branch could implement immediately to reduce overcrowding. You can access these through the task force meetings online. I support and thank you for proposing today's resolution regarding establishing guiding principles for Whatcom County criminal justice and behavioral health systems. This is a critical action. Our past failure to examine and critically manage these operating systems for the highest taxpayer returns has gotten us into trouble locally, statewide, and nationally. Thank you for your efforts to support a fair and responsible system that diverts people as fast as possible back into the workforce. No new jail systems. Thank you.
Good evening, Ray Barabo, Whatcom County, just outside of Bellingham. I want to thank the committee this afternoon that tabled the resolution on the incarceration prevention and reduction in jail and behavioral health for a couple weeks to get it reworked. That's good, wise effort. And I submit to you something I learned after I left the committee meeting. Barry Lovell told me he sent you all an email. I hope you got it. He's a sergeant in the Whatcom County Jail. He was a couple hours past his shift deadline. And it's a well-written document. I didn't bring enough. I will give one copy to the clerk in case it didn't arrive. It did arrive in your email. It's really good. And I thought paragraph 4, he lists some things that actually can act as checkpoints for the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force to look and see if, yeah, we've dealt with that. We've got an answer to that question. So this is written from the heart by a real professional that does excellent work in a terrible environment. And I just ask you to consider what Barry has written as we go forward with all these issues. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your service on the council. It's not a job I envy. It's a lot of responsibility. I come this evening to make some recommendations regarding the document relating to principles of incarceration, prevention, criminal justice, and jail planning. I have read the document 3 times carefully. I have a lot of editing experience. I would implore you, do not vote on this document tonight. One of the reasons being it is very poorly written. Very poorly written. Has a lot of holes in it. Number two, I think it's only right, and I know Mr. Weimer approached, I believe, the Ferndale City Council and invited them to look the document over. I think it's a great thing. I would recommend that this not be moved on until each of the mayors and city councils in the entire county have an opportunity to read this, evaluate it, and make some votes as city councils as to how they feel about it, so that if for any other reason you get a full spectrum of input. The document has some, for those who have not followed the issue closely, the document has some misleading statements in it. Whether that's intentional or not, I'm not questioning. But it's a document that I understand maybe some of the justification, but it's a document that needs to be tabled and given more review and an opportunity to mayors, city councils, and police chiefs an opportunity to read so that they have an idea of what's being proposed as a document that affects all of Whatcom County. Thank you. I'm sorry, Paul Harris.
Pass them off.
We'll pass them out for you.
Very good. Thank you.
Hi, too. My name is George Rounthwaite, R-O-U-N-T-H-W-A-I-T-E. I live at 7371 Woodland Road in Ferndale, Washington. What you see before you is a packet of pictures and a document that is a timeline of a flooding problem in our Woodland Road neighborhood. I'm here on behalf of the neighbors that surround that Woodland neighborhood, and I now know why the flooding occurs, and at the end of the timeline there's some suggestions of how to alleviate the problem. I've been speaking with engineering, flood control, roads and ditches, county engineers, River and Flood Division, Whatcom County Executive, and have talked to the county treasurer about my $18.50 of flood control every year, along with all the other neighbors. All the official responses from the Whatcom County entities have been that our area drains through private property, and that we should work with our neighbors for the water course, which we have. Over the time, we now know the history of the whole water course, and it has been impacted by a culvert that is a half a mile away, set at the same elevation as the bottom of our ditches. The third sheet is a fairly hard to read map because it's small scale, but it shows a depiction of an area that is to be drained through this culvert that is approximately 350 acres. As this water flows through that 24-inch culvert, during the flood, the culvert is only half full. And so in doing the research, I found out that that culvert was mandated to be placed there by a developer who had put a housing development up North Enterprise, and he did not do or they did not do any engineering apparently to find out what the elevations or what the size should be or how much water has to be drained during a flood season. And so that's just one of the problems. One of
30 seconds, please.
the easiest way to alleviate our flooding problem would be to just dig the ditch out along Woodland Road to Hartsel. Executive Lowe's didn't understand that our water flows to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. Now the Whatcom County Health Department knows, and because I've been mandated to have my ROSS, my rural septic system, evaluated because my watershed, according to the health department, goes to the west, to Drayton Harbor.
Time.
So, so it's legal to dig that ditch out. Please talk to the engineer. I've talked to Travis Bauma, and he is going to do that. I urge you to follow up. Thank you.
Ms. Brenner.
Yes. I'm getting the nods from the director and the assistant to the executive. They're going to follow up. I don't know if you've got these papers. Yeah. Okay.
Good answer, Dr. Hutchings.
Go ahead.
My name's Robin Dexter from Bellingham. I start by apologizing to Rud for interrupting the committee meeting. I looked at the agenda and saw the fine print. And
I was just trying to save you from the exit. You didn't want to be in there. So.
Yeah, okay, well, sorry. I meant to come for the reorganization meeting, and for one reason or another, I'm sorry I haven't made it to a meeting. To congratulate new office holders and thank long-term ones. I am a member of the Environmental Working Group, which represents all the organized environmental groups in the county on water issues. Not the Environmental Caucus, it's not a Weimer thing. So with that regard, I'll have a lot to say about the comp plan update and the CAO revision and water issues in general, but that's not what I came for tonight. I can be kind of a crank about that and have a lot of disagreements with the Planning Commission, so I wanted to start at the reorganization meeting by just thanking you all. And this has been kind of a good open session to do that. We all fall in love with our issues, and we all think what's important is important, but tonight's a pretty good illustration that you have to listen to it all. So when I come at you as a crank over the comp plan, I haven't forgotten that you do all the stuff that I don't pay as much attention to because you have to, that public safety, criminal justice, substance abuse, traffic, public safety. And I just want to start out my year by just telling you I'm grateful for that. And I promise not to lose sight of that when I'm disagreeing with the Planning Commission, which I promise I'll do. And really that's all. Finally, I just happen to be at committee and see the Lake Whatcom plan, and part of my gratitude is that I have been here for the creation of lots of parks, and my family is a constant user of the parks. I'm appreciative of them all. I remember the battle over Squires Lake, and we spend a lot of time there. I'm also aware that some of the issues that come to you are not your own doing. You're inheriting some.
30 seconds, please.
And so I thank you for that also, and promise to see you in open sessions on the comp plan.
Would anyone else like to speak to us during open session? Seeing no one else, we will close the open session and move on to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, the Whatcom County Finance and Administrative Services Committee met today, considered 4 items in the consent agenda. Item 1, actually I'll deal with items 2 through 4 first, which all have received a vote of 3-0, and I so move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion for items 2 through 4, correct?
2 through 4, correct.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Sidhu excused.
So, Mr. Chair, item 1, which was request authorization for the county executive to enter into a local agency agreement between Whatcom County and Transportation Engineers Northwest L.L.C. for the design of a pedestrian actuated crosswalk signal across Lakeway Drive in the amount of $65,090.34. During the hearing, this received a vote of 2-0, 2-4 and 1 against. And during the hearing, a question was asked of Dr. Hutchings, and then he informed me afterwards that he'd misunderstood the question and that he wanted to give us there was a different answer, and I would actually like to move that we put this back into Finance Committee and revisit the issue then.
Okay, question for the clerk. When the committee approves something 2-1 and the chair of the committee moves to table it,
It can just be considered a new motion tonight. That's fine.
okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I read some of the comments, I guess, in the letter, and I'm really disturbed because Public Works has already made their position extremely well known. And when a certain county executive wanted something special done that didn't meet warrants, Public Works was really, this was before your time, John, I think. Public Works was just fine with that. And I feel like decisions that should be made by the council are not only being made by unelected people, they're also being given support in a way that is just, it really bothers me to ask them over and over and over again, so this doesn't mean warrants, so you think it's not safe. Well, it seems like some things are safe unless Public Works doesn't think they're safe, but they don't meet warrants anyway. And I'm really getting tired of it. This is such a public safety issue. You know, I'm amazed. Not only are people speeding all the time over there, but we need to have, I mean, there's a lot of people who live there, and to keep just ignoring the fact that pedestrians need to talk. We keep saying we want to get people out of their cars. Well, I guess we just want to get them out of their cars to ride bikes, which is fine with me, but people matter if they're walking too. And a lot of the elderly people, they don't ride bikes. And there's a lot of people who need a crosswalk. And I'm getting tired of all the politics involved in this. This is completely a public safety issue. So there you have it.
Mr. Browne?
I agree on the statement. This is completely a public safety issue. My concern is that, and my concern all along has been that this, we don't have an engineer, a civil engineer who's willing to sign off that this is safe as defined by the national safety standards. And I would like that issue discussed in finance before we vote on whether we approve this or not.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, I'm fine with putting it in finance. I just don't want to keep seeing that particular argument brought up again and again, since we've had times when they say the warrants don't you don't meet that federal standard. But they were fine with it when it was the executive. And I just really resent it. I think this is way more about politics and people, excuse my language, but covering their you-know-whats by saying, oh, well, this federal standard. We're supposed to be making that decision and not Public Works. And I'm sure if I wanted to pay the money, which I don't, and I don't have the money to do it, I could find an engineer that would say, yes, you can make it meet warrants. So I'm getting really tired of this. We're giving our responsibility up to unelected people instead of making our own decisions. And I mean, I've brought up these other crossings, that the one at Birchwood, right in the middle of a block, and you can't miss it. And then other ones that are, you know, you really have a hard time seeing them. But that one at Birchwood, if we use that type of warning to cars, I have no doubt that cars would stop. And this has gone on and on and on. Put it in committee, whatever.
Mr. Mann, then Mr. Brown.
So I don't know what conversation happened with Councilmember Brown in Public Works today, and I'm not particularly aware of a lot of the stuff Ms. Brenner's alluding to about unelected this and council and the county executive and what he gets. I voted against this, and I have been voting against it because I don't think it's a wise use of funds as part of an isolated council-initiated decision. I think we had an option to do a much more comprehensive study on the area, and we were going to find the safest and most effective and most efficient method to achieve some pedestrian accessibility and improve safety, and that's why I voted against it. So all the other things that are being thrown out there had nothing to do with why I'm voted against it today in committee and why I'm happy putting it back in finance to talk about it again.
Mr. Brown.
So Mr. Hutchings sent me an email after the meeting, and I forwarded that to every member of the council. So but that was fairly late, so I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. Ms. Brenner, if there's an offer here to find another engineer, civil engineer who's qualified in the state of Washington who will certify that this is safe, then I will support the proposal. And I would, if you think you can find one, I'd be more than happy to entertain that.
That I could find one? Oh.
Well, I thought you were offering or suggesting that if we could find someone else.
Well,
yes.
I'm fine with looking for one. The problem is we have no say. It comes from the administration on who gets recommended to the council, not who I recommend, but who gets recommended. And I don't think the administration wants this to happen. So I could waste my time finding somebody, but it's still, the recommendation comes from them. And we can't require them to hire an engineer who I pick out and say, this is the guy I want. So, or even if the whole council supports me on it.
Okay, our motion is to hold in committee. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0.
I abstained.
You're abstaining?
Yeah.
5-0, one abstention, and Mr. Sidhu excused.
Mr. Chair, the next item was a resolution setting hearing and notice of a hearing on the sale of county tax title property by negotiation, request number TR 2016-01. This received a motion of 3-0 for recommendation to the full council, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0.
Oh, aye. Sorry.
What?
Mr. Chair, the next
I said
item.
a belated aye.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending the 2016 Whatcom County budget, fifth request in the amount of $5,241,772. This received a recommendation of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us. Is there any discussion? Ms. Brenner.
Yeah, I had a question. Is somebody here? Mr. Schroeder, could you maybe answer this for me? It's probably not a difficult question. I think this was in that request, the one about rehab of the C Street. Yeah. You know, it talked about the contract and all, but I've heard, we've talked about this before, but I don't remember what the rehab will entail. It was just a real quick explanation about doing it.
So Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive, Councilmember Brenner, I think you're talking about the EDI fund allocation.
Yeah.
That's in the supplemental budget. 1 second, let me get to that information. It was a long-standing Port of Bellingham
Right.
project for infrastructure rehabilitation down there at the C Street Terminal.
Okay, like, can you just give me an example? I think I'm supporting it, I just wanted to get a little detail.
Yes, so on page 75 of the packet, there's a description of the C Street Terminal. In 2013, the council adopted the EDI board's recommendation to provide $3 million to the EDI program. Our understanding was that was going to commence in 2015. At this point, with the EDI funds being allocated for that, the project will start in fall of 2016.
Are you on page 75?
Yes.
Yeah, I read it. It's one paragraph, but it just says rehab, and it didn't,
It's an old shipping terminal
Yeah,
that I
so-
believe was bringing in different rocks and gravels from.
so is it going to get torn down and?
It's going to be rehabbed to allow for additional work and commodities to be brought in, similar to what they have in the past. But additional
Okay.
work had to be accomplished there. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, it was very short, and I didn't,
Yeah,
that was the
and-
only thing I couldn't really remember why.
This really is just the budget authorization associated with the decision that had made in the past.
No, and
So-
I know that. I just wanted to know what exactly does the rehab entail? But if,
I guess off the top of my head, I can't provide more information.
okay, just wanted to ask.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this budget amendment. Any other discussion?
Well, just,
Yes.
can Tyler, afterwards, can you get me more detail on
Yeah, I
that?
absolutely can follow up to provide more detail on it.
Thanks.
Mr. Donovan?
Again, this sort of a process question. So these are things that the council has, before I got here, they've seen what the actual proposals are. I mean, I know what's going on at the All-American thing, but I don't know what the project is at the C Street thing. But they were presented to the council before, they've seen these.
Yeah, these are projects back in 2013 that the EDI board made recommendations to move forward with. The council have supported. This is just the budget allocation through the supplemental process to accomplish that, being to move forward.
Ms. Brenner?
Just one suggestion, because not only are there new council members, there are those of us who don't remember too. And maybe if we get stuff that could go into, even if it's just giving us the paperwork so we can read it, a little more detail.
We will work on the memorandum there on page 75 to provide more detail to the project.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Barbara Brenner, oops,
Yes.
we'll start with you, sorry. Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending ordinance number 2010-040 to authorise additional capital projects for which unexpended bond proceeds may be used by the county. This was discussed in committee and received a recommendation of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have any discussion?
I have a, yes.
Mr. Weimer was first.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed finance this morning, and I was just wondering if there was some discussion. It's pretty wide open. It says, study of the deficiencies of the jail and minimum security facility, and I was wondering if there's any more specificity about which deficiencies we're studying. Was it the security systems, the overall structural safety of the buildings? What's going to be studied? I certainly support using this money on the jails, but
So Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. If you remember, last council member, I believe there was a discussion in regards to moving forward with an RFP or RFQ for a capital improvement to the existing main jail and to the work center. That's what this will go to be funding for that analysis, as well as for recommendations that come out of that for capital improvements at the existing main jail and for the work center.
so that would include the structural safety of the building itself?
Yeah, but keep in mind, this is only about $700,000.
Right.
So it will be used as it can once we provide more definition on what improvements will need to happen. But we wanted to take care of having the bond proceeds be able to accomplish that project and not have to come back, but limit it just to those projects.
Mr. Mann?
Mr. Schroeder, are you suggesting that $700,000 might not be enough to do an engineering study of the structural analysis of the building?
No, I apologize if I wasn't clear enough. It was for the projects that would come out of the engineering analysis and the review from an architectural firm on the facility.
Right. No, I agree with you. That will not be enough money to actually implement the discoveries of our.
Correct.
Yeah, right. Okay. But there is enough money to actually do a fairly detailed engineering analysis on the structural and the life safety issues that we face.
Correct.
At the jail right now.
Correct.
Do we need to put that into the ordinance, or is this discussion sufficient to get that result?
My this discussion would be sufficient for that. If you see there on page 79, it talks about replacing, of the packet, it talks about replacing the security controls at the minimum security, which the council's aware of. We gave an emergency proclamation on that. The study the deficiencies of the jail and the minimum security facility, and then make improvements based off of that study. Now,
I guess I'm going back to what Mr. Weimer just brought up, which was, is there enough specific details for, maybe not for you necessarily, because you know what we're talking about, but you know, when you get hired by Obama to become Secretary of State in a few months here, then maybe no one will be around to remember that. So I'm just wondering how much do we need to put into the ordinance to get the results we seek?
We worked with bond counsel to develop this ordinance to these specific projects. So I believe there's enough detail. If council's interested in looking at additional information, we could work through that. But this works for those three projects that are described in this ordinance.
Okay, well, then let me just wrap it up by saying whatever you guys do, we'll get a chance to see the contract and the scope for whoever we hire to go do the analysis. So if it doesn't look detailed enough, we can bring it up then.
That's a very valid point, Councilmember Mann, is those contracts will come back in front of council to move forward. Once the RFP is accomplished, the analysis has been done, and the council would have to give authority on those contracts.
Okay.
This just allows for those bond proceeds to be used in the jail improvement fund and for these purposes.
Well, I completely support that. I just want to make sure we spend it on the right stuff. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Weimer, then Mr. Browne?
Yeah, and I think we're good too. I just wanted to ensure that if we're going forward with a study of deficiencies, we aren't only looking at security controls and plumbing and electrical, we're looking at the actual structural integrity of the building.
So, and we are. So last council, there was a discussion from Executive Laus in regards to the capital improvement countywide, but then also on the specific request for the RFQ in regards to the main jail and to the minimum security. And we will be looking at the structural deficiencies, some capital improvements that have already been established by the sheriff's office and by facilities. And we'll be making a recommendation on steps to continue to do those improvements in the short term, the mid-term, and the long term as we continue to talk about how to replace the existing jail with a replacement facility. But we will be looking at the structural deficiency to question on it.
Mr. Browne?
Yeah, my question's answered.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, could you please call the roll?
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes. That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused.
Mr. Chair, the next item was a resolution cancelling uncollectible personal property taxes, which received a recommendation of 3-0 from the committee, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion to cancel these uncollectible personal property taxes. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I'm going to go fast because I've been doing too much today and tonight, and I'm being respectful. Mr. Schroeder, afterwards, can you and I talk about, most of them I understood why. It was bankruptcy, lots of those, and house burned down or this or that. But there were some I really didn't understand. And I'd be glad, it'll just take a couple minutes, but I don't want to.
Yes, I can walk through it. I may not know the answers, but I can walk through it
Okay.
and connect with you, somebody that does.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. Next is Public Works, Health and Safety Committee.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we had a great presentation by the task force, the jail, however you say, long name, our Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force Phase 1 report. I am so impressed, not only by what they're doing, but the way everybody agrees. They got very diverse people on there, and everybody agreeing to what's going on there. And so I don't know if we have to do it, but I move that we accept and approve the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force Phase 1 report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force Phase 1 report. Any discussion?
I said approve, accept and approve. I want approve in there. I just am so impressed with it. It's the report.
Okay.
Can't we approve
That
it?
could be in your motion, that's not a problem?
No, not at all for me. If anybody else has a problem, they can speak up.
Mr. Browne?
I'd just like to compliment the task force for the work they did in the presentation given to us by the two co-chairs. I thought it was an excellent use of time, and I think we've clearly got some citizens who are doing a lot of hard work for this, and I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Ditto from me. I think that they're just doing wonderful work, and their report today was very concise, very, not only was it concise, but it was detailed at the same time. So, great work. We have a motion to accept and approve the report. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. Next item is from Planning and Development.
Yes, we had two items in committee today. The first one was consideration of a hearing examiner's recommended approval of a planned unit development filed by Wayne Allen, doing business as Whisper Lakes Development Incorporated. This is a new development out in the Birch Bay area. And after some discussion, it was recommended that the council approve that on a 3-0 vote. And I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any discussion? It's been requested that we do a roll call on this, so we have a record. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused.
And our second item was a resolution adopting a statement of incarceration prevention, criminal justice, and jail planning principles for Whatcom County's criminal justice and behavioral health systems. After quite a long discussion about that, it was voted to table that in committee on a 2-to-1 vote. So that was held in committee.
Okay, and do you move
For
that?
2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved to put this off for 2 weeks. Discussion?
Well, it's been moved to keep it in committee,
Keep it in committee.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't think there is any vote for us as a full council. It's a committee vote.
You think the
Yeah.
committee held it unless the council wants to overrule and vote on
No,
it? I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it really actually shouldn't have even been in here, probably. Okay. So it's held in committee. Okay, the next thing we have is resolution adopting the 2016 Comprehensive Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. And you should have a salmon-colored additional info.
See, got it. It's here. Too much paper today. Okay, I'm getting one.
Still on fast. Right.
Here, I knew I had it. I got it. Somewhere.
I probably.
Here. Whatever.
Close by.
While we're waiting,
I'm sorry.
You can have mine, I memorized it.
It's a test after this, right? What's wrong with your demo?
Director McFarland, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we take this up?
Mike McFarland. I'd had nothing more unless you had questions remaining out there. I think the memo, I tried to outline everything in there to give some background context to it. I will say that this document here, the two things is first of all, is contingent upon what the council does in improving the county's comprehensive plan, because we can amend it at that particular time if there are changes, but we needed to go forward. So what you have in here is the recommended changes by both the Parks Commission as well as the Planning Commission.
Okay, what are the wishes of the council?
I just want to get a clarification on that. So say that again, if we adopt this right now and there's, because want to have further discussion about things that may not be in there, you said we could amend it when we get to...
This plan can be amended at any time because it's not part of the county's comprehensive plan. What we did do is we took the draft goals and objectives that were approved by the Planning Commission as well as the Parks and Rec Commission and have included them in here, so they are the most recent ones.
And what would the process of amendment be like?
We would bring back a resolution to amend it.
Okay. Mr. Weimer.
I'd move approval of the 2016 Comprehensive Park Recreation and Open Space Plan.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion, Ms. Brenner.
I'm not going to support it. It sounds great, except it hasn't been a transparent process, this part. And it said, in fact, he gave us material that told us this could be part of our regular comprehensive plan instead of a separate plan by resolution. And I just feel like, I mean, I appreciate there's this deadline. Well, there's always going to be deadlines, but one thing I have realized for many years is there's nothing free. We get some of this grant money and then we find out we got to do so much more because of it. I'm not saying that would even happen on this, but you know, the Growth Management Act says it can be part of the comprehensive plan can be part of the Growth Management Act. And this has bothered me for a while, but especially at this point, I mean, I know Mr. McFarland was trying to be helpful, but the terms he was using makes it easier for us to do this or do that, more efficient, and we're kind of out of the loop. I mean, we already gave it an okay. Otherwise, why would it be coming to us to get it passed? I just feel like this needs to go through the comprehensive plan process. We don't need two separate parks and rec plans, and the process has been very confusing to me, so I can't support it.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Mann.
This has been a long process. It has been somewhat confusing, but it's been going on for a long time. We've had a lot of public input. And I think the reason maybe we don't feel like we're entirely up to date on it is because we weren't ready a couple of years ago to act on it. So we sort of tabled it for a couple of years and now it's coming back to us again. And when I look at the long list of public outreach and the long list of folks that have worked on it thus far, representing broad segments of the user groups and of the county, I think this is a reasonable time to pass this plan, so I am going to support it.
Other discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, I just feel like what I remember was that we had discussions on it, and it was brought up years ago that, well, we're going to be updating our comp plan. That would be the good time to do it. Well, this is right in there, in before the comp plan. And I just don't appreciate that. And we didn't, actually at that time, I don't remember ever being told we don't need a separate plan. I just remember it was for efficiency. That was the main word used. Well, I think there are things that are more important than efficiency. And I mean, you guys are going to do what you're going to do, but whoops. But I can't support something that does seem like it's kind of, that it's not up front. And there were people who came to our last meeting who are like so concerned about environmental issues. And they, you know, whether I agree with them on all issues or not, they brought up the same thing, that this just, they just found out about it. And if there was this thing about a deadline, they knew about this deadline at least last summer. And I don't think we needed to wait till, you know, a few months before about this deadline. I think there would have been more discussion about it back last year if that was the case.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That passes 5-1 with Mr. Sidhu excused. Next item is a resolution requesting the Committee on Geographic Names recommend to the Board on Geographic Names, when the time is appropriate, that the landform at the mouth of Terrell Creek be evermore known as Wolf Bower Point. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Mr. Donovan?
Carl's first.
Oh, Mr. Weimer.
I think we missed something. We were supposed to insert some dates after Mr. Bauer's name in the first
Okay.
whereas. So I would just like to insert, so the first whereas would read, whereas Mr. Wolf Bauer, and then in parentheses, 1912 to 2016. Those got left out in various versions.
Do I take that as an amendment, a friendly amendment, or how do we do this? Now that we've changed our
I'd
rules.
move that as an amendment.
Okay. Can I just accept it, or do we have to vote on it? Can I just accept it, or do we have? Okay.
We need a second on the amendment.
I second.
Okay.
Did I get the dates right? People that know are nodding.
It's been moved and seconded to add dates to the resolution. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Well, that's the amendment.
That's the amendment.
We have to do the amendment, which we just passed, and then we have to
That's correct, we did.
vote on.
We just did the amendment.
Okay,
So now we are on
Okay.
to the main motion of the resolution.
thank you.
You're welcome. Mr.
I'm just curious about when the time is appropriate in the title.
It's 5 years, I think, after.
They can't do it until 5 years
Okay.
after.
Don't know.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. The next one is appointment of 2 members to serve on the Criminal Justice Treatment Account Panel. And the people put forward are Chris Watras, and he's Seymour Community Health, and John Komorowski, Criminal Defense Bar member.
I move approval. I mean, I move approval to accept it. I move acceptance. Oh, yeah, but he did the appointment, we do the confirmation.
No, this is yours.
Oh,
I move appointment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
oh, discussion, yeah.
Yes.
Quick, I just think we are so lucky to have these 2 apply, not like they got time on their hands. They're great.
Okay. So, discussion, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of the appointment signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously with Mr. Sidhu excused. Next item is executive appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. The executive is requesting confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Gary Jensen to the Whatcom County Ethics Commission. What are the wishes of the council?
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Mr. Mann?
Okay, well, I'm not going to support this appointment, and it's nothing personal to do with the applicant. I have no idea about this person's ethics. It has nothing to do with that. But I think someone, having politicians on the Ethics Commission is problematic because a lot of times, you know, that we're used to all working together throughout the county, cities, and all the other districts, and the port, county itself. And if you're doing a good job, which most of us are, you know, you get to know a lot of people and you develop relationships, sometimes friendships. I think it's going to be hard for somebody who's been in politics this long to not be faced with like people he's friendly with or collegial with coming through. And I know it's a small county and a small town, that can happen anyway, but I just think having a politician on that commission is counterproductive. And that's the only reason I'm not supporting this.
Mr. Browne?
So I respect Mr. Mann's concerns, but the person that Mr. Jensen is replacing is unfortunately the late Harriet Spinell, who was a state senator, and she met most of the qualifications you just talked about, and it didn't prove to be a problem.
I didn't vote for her.
Okay. Well, I wasn't here, but I would have if she had been, so.
Any other discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I first want to say I have known Gary for a long time, and it's not because I've known him, but I've known him long enough to believe he's very ethical. I am uncomfortable that it's caused such a controversy, but whatever he's done over time as an elected official, I do feel like I trust his intentions. A lot of stuff I haven't agreed with, but I've trusted his intentions and his honesty. And if somebody ran for something and didn't get it, and you didn't want him to get it, I can see where it's real easy to say, well, he doesn't tell the truth, he doesn't do this. I was kind of disturbed with the emails we got, because yeah, we've had other political people on the ethics board too. I just feel like it shouldn't be about who we support and who we don't.
Other discussion?
Except for the confirmation thing, yeah.
Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of the confirmation signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Who was the other no? Mr. Weimer and Mann opposed, so that passes 4-2 to 1. Mr. Sidhu excused. Next item is request confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Jamie Gunst to the Whatcom County Agricultural Advisory Committee.
I'll
Move approval.
Oops, he moved, I second then.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously with Mr. Sidhu excused. The next one is to request confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Les Seeley to the Whatcom County Public Health Advisory Board.
I'll move.
Move approval.
Oops.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. We are on to committee reports, other items, and council member. Anything else from natural resources?
Yeah, we had 3 discussions in natural resources this morning. The first was an update on flooding along Rutsat Road out near Deming. Some emergency work, pretty substantial emergency work right in the river is going to be happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we got an update on that, and they'll be coming back to us with what it's actually going to cost. We also had a briefing on the comp plan chapter 11, that's the environment chapter, and we're going to be spending 4 more meetings on that. And we had a presentation on something else. Oh, the draft Lookout Mountain and Lake Whatcom Park recreational trail plan. And we had quite a long discussion of that, and People were encouraged to send any comments or changes they had in it to park staff, and they'll be coming back to that, with that, to us after the environmental assessment is done.
Okay, thank you. Finance, you did have one other issue, I think, the ports report. Did you want to?
Yeah, so there are a couple of items, and, well, sorry, ports report or the?
Yeah, this item that you had in.
Update on the
Oh, sorry,
report.
yes, so we had a presentation today from Port, who's currently the designated Associate Development Organisation for, which represents the county in terms of collecting state funds from the Department of Commerce for economic development, and they talked about the work that they've done in the past and what their future plans are.
And you said you had some other items?
Well, we have some discussion items about the assignments for Forest Longman.
Would you prefer to wait for?
It's your choice.
Okay, we'll do that in other items. Yep. So anything else from Public Works?
Yeah, we had a presentation on the Comcast contract, and I believe we're going to get a little more information before we figure it all out, but it sounds like the feds have, taken more and more authority away from counties, local jurisdictions, and it doesn't sound real hopeful.
Anything else from planning?
Nope.
Okay, we'll go on to other items. Mr. Browne?
Mr. Chair, I'll just pass it to those.
We had two things that we were potentially tossing to.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a third. So. That's the next one. So the first item was came out of the Finance Committee discussion regarding how we treat tax title property. And for those who are not familiar, if there's property that has got unpaid taxes for more than 3 years, then comes up for a tax title auction through the Treasurer's Department. Some of that property is purchased by citizens and the taxes are paid off, and some of that property ends up being passed in as unsold, and then the county or other citizens has then had an opportunity to purchase it. We had a situation where there's a person wishes to purchase a piece of property in the Lake Whatcom watershed, and that raised the question as to whether the county should be acquiring those properties when they get passed in at tax auctions, because we are spending quite a bit of money on purchasing development rights in critical areas such as agricultural land and the Lake Whatcom watershed, and it didn't seem logical to allow those properties to be transacted at a relatively small price when it is a price that's much lower than what we're paying to purchase development rights. So the resolution was to that I move that the county's policy analyst looks into creating a county policy for the county to purchase certain tax title properties in critical areas such as the agricultural zone and Lake Whatcom watershed for the purpose of removing the development rights and then reselling the property to the public.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Oh.
Okay.
It's written better than mine.
I could be persuaded to support it, but it was a little confusing in committee that we take a risk when we do that somebody could push when we negotiate it, we can ask for certain things, I suppose, but if we buy it ourselves, then we're in a bidding war, I suppose. I don't know, it was kind of confusing. Maybe Karen, you could?
I can answer the question. So if the property had been passed in at the tax title auction, the purchase price for the county to buy it is the unpaid taxes. If we want to buy it at auction in a competitive basis, then the purchase price is whatever we have agreed. But this resolution is not to do that. This resolution is simply to ask for us to do some research and then come back to us with a recommended policy.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have Forrest look into this. Mr. Mann.
So looking at this item and then the next one as well. I'm struck, not because I don't think we should invest time in looking into this stuff. I'm not sure, though, that I want our legislative analyst spending his time doing this. What I feel, maybe I'm being paranoid, but I feel like what's happening is stuff that the administration doesn't want to do and doesn't want to prioritize is just kind of falling to the bottom of the to-do list. And they're starting to suggest, which even happened today, like, oh, well, maybe your legislative analyst can look into that. And, you know, I don't want our legislative analysts doing the work that the administration is supposed to be doing. And I think we need to be really careful about guarding his time for, you know, big issues that we want, and whether it's like budget time or comp plan amendments and land use planning and population projections, you know, a lot of the big things that we need help with, you know, Mr. Longman's overqualified to on some level to be doing this, and I'm not sure if we really care about this, this is what the administration has 800 employees for. Let them do it.
Donovan?
I guess I should maybe share half of Councilmember Mann's concerns there. I look at the first item here as that was something Councilmember Browne sort of brought that up as an idea so it was initiated, you know, to some extent by us. But I think I agree with you on the Comcast thing.
We aren't there yet. I want to.
Okay, but I'm just, in terms of his general worry here, I see that as a potential issue. So.
I agree with Mr. Donovan. I felt that the idea about the tax title kind of came out of council, but the second one, no.
We're not talking about the second
But
one.
I brought up the second one, Ms. Brenner, because I was saying, looking at them both, so I agree that one's a little bit more egregious than the other.
Yeah. Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we asked Mr. Schroeder if he could, you know, bring forward information for us, and he, unless I'm misquoting him, he said he would, and I don't think, I really don't think this is something, not only he has access to stuff, Tyler would probably be working with him to get information anyway. Did I misquote you?
I got Tyler Schroeder. Are we talking about the tax title properties?
No.
We're talking about
Comcast thing.
Okay.
Yeah, he said.
Yes, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Dan Gibson and I will be working with Comcast on the negotiation. The reference to engaging Mr. Longman was, at what point does the council have some policy input to the franchise agreement, in which those discussions, it'd probably be most efficient to go through Mr. Longman, similar to the comp plan. But we can do that in the future after we give a report back to council and give some ideas about where we're going from the Comcast franchise agreement, if that's the wishes of the council.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that gives us good context on looking at both issues. So we do have a motion for the first one to look at the tax title properties and look at development rights. So any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of having Mr. Longman research this signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that passes 5-1 with Ms.
I thought you were opposed too.
I'm much more opposed to the second one. The first one, I agree, it was our idea. I was speaking globally when I spoke about the two.
Well, you convinced me.
Well, thank you.
On the first one.
Dang, I wish I could save that.
I was globally convinced, right.
Okay,
Should you save that card for something else?
Darn it.
Did you want to continue, Mr. Browne?
Well, the next item was, in response to this, what Mr. Schroeder had said was, what does the council's policy want to be in terms of dealing with utilities such as Comcast? I thought the starting point for that was to have Mr. Longman research what other jurisdictions have done. The contracts reflect what the policy decisions are to a degree. So if there's not support for that, I won't even bother putting this one up for a vote. If we want to have it, if we really have to have a discussion as to what we want to do regarding our role from developing policy with Comcast.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, again, I would like to get way more information about what our kind of rights are even anymore, and I would love to get that first before we even think about putting it on Forest.
Mr. Mann?
Our policy on this negotiation and any negotiation should be get the best deal we can for the people of Whatcom County.
Yeah.
I don't think we need Forrest, sorry, Mr. Longman, to figure that out for us. So the administration and the prosecuting attorney or the deputy prosecuting attorney today spent a lot of time trying to get Mr. Longman to do this for him, and I did not appreciate that. I think that our legal department has a vast staff, and they should be doing all of this, finding out exactly what our options are, what the negotiation points are, what the criteria are, what other agencies have done, and bring that to us. It's not the legislative analyst's job to do this.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, as much as I'd love to blame the administration, that wasn't I mean, as chair of the committee, that was not the impression I got. I got the impression that, I'm getting Tyler and Forrest mixed up now, that Mr. Schroeder was going to take it on to bring us more information before we do anything. And that he's representing the administration. So it didn't come.
I didn't say
from
Mr.
them.
Schroeder.
Oh.
Remember Mr. Prosecuting Attorney, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, apologizing to Forrest for saying, sorry, I'm giving you more work to do, sorry, I'm giving you more
Well,
work
that
to do.
doesn't mean he suggested it or anything.
Oh, good grief.
Okay, whatever. Whatever.
Point being, this is the administration's job. So
I agree.
I think we should let them do their job.
Okay, we're sitting here and we're motionless at this point.
Motionless. I'm not motionless.
I'm still moving.
Did you want to make a motion or?
No, I won't. I won't. I'll drop this one because I think there's more work to be done. And the third item, which I haven't written down here, is just I would like to see how the council feels on our arrangement with Mr. Longman. If a council member wishes to draft a resolution or an ordinance, I would like it as a council member to be able to go to him and say, can you help me with this in terms of looking for comparable ordinances or elsewhere? And I think it's a relatively low time, relatively infrequent event, and I would just like to put that out as one of the policies that we have in terms of interacting with Mr. Longman.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
I don't want to be motionless.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's usually the end of an emotion.
Second.
Yeah, right.
I thought we already had an informal agreement that each of us was allowed to have one-ish hour a week, and that Mr. Longman.
I couldn't find it.
That was actually voted down.
It was?
No, we weren't gonna have like a strict, like we weren't dividing it seven ways.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant.
But that each person was allowed within reason to, seek out his professional opinion.
And that would be fine too. And I remember the discussion. I went back to see how we voted on it. We never actually voted on it.
I think because Mr. Longman indicated he was capable of handling us.
I think you're right.
He's going to prove you right.
Yeah, Forrest Longman, legislative analyst. Yes, so that's my recollection too, is just we sort of left it like, if I feel like it's a problem with time commitments, I will bring that issue to the council or tell the council member to that end. But I'll also say no one has really taken full advantage of their hour, so it's not a problem, and happy to help with things.
Well, with that said, I am motionless.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I got a motion. Don't sit down Mr. Longman.
Sorry, we're out of room. We're out of.
I didn't put it down in writing,
I'm just kidding.
Okay. I did go to Mr. Longman. Mr. Longman, and I asked him about a potential issue that I would like to see him work on, and he thought about it, and he didn't disagree with me. He just thought it's broad enough it should go to the full council. Did I say it okay? Okay. And it is, I would love to have our policy analyst go through as much as possible the comments we've been receiving on the comp plan, chapter by chapter, and putting them, if 3, 4, 5 people saying the same thing, he could just kind of list the different issues that have been brought up per chapter. because it's, boy, we get so many emails and calls and letters on this, and a lot of them seem to overlap, and I just thought maybe he could kind of do what he did on chapters 1 and 4, but into the detail about the comments we got, not just asking for our comments.
Put it in a motion, I'll vote for it.
Okay, that's my motion, and I would like to hear from Mr. Longman.
First, let's get a second.
I was the second.
You were the second, okay.
Yeah, so I agree that I think that would be a useful thing that I could do for you all, and I could distill that information on a chapter-by-chapter basis as we're looking at it, or as you are looking at it, so happy to do that.
Okay.
I just thought it was a little bit, probably too much of a time commitment to do it without having the whole council chime in on it.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Mann, you look like you want to say something.
I do, but I've already been obnoxious, so I'm gonna just not say it.
Not really,
You're
not really.
Well, I was gonna say then, since you've given me license.
Oh, gosh.
I was gonna say, I remember when the planning department used to do that.
Well, not exactly.
Yeah, they used to give us these nice big matrices with everybody's comment and who said it.
Ms. Brenner.
Well, they would do that to some extent, but they weren't gonna, I don't remember it being exactly like this. I mean, we're so overloaded with all the comments we're getting from the comp plan. I just feel like our policy analyst could do that.
I agree. I think it's a
Oh.
very useful task. I think
Okay.
somebody should do it, absolutely.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Any other items?
Is this council stuff, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
None?
Well, I have other items, but it's not council. Remember how we can,
You're talking about council member updates.
updates, yeah.
And we'll move into that. We'll start down here.
Chair, if I could.
Oh, here's the.
Sorry, just briefly, update on the C Street project from earlier tonight. So the C Street project is down on the port where the landing culinary wharf, as well as Bellingham Marine Industries are. It's a federal, local through port, and then there was a $3 million contribution from the EDI fund to accomplish the project. There was a bunch of shoreline infrastructure, marine infrastructure and degraded shoreline that the Port of Bellingham is moving forward to improve for those facilities, as well as additional facilities to provide for design, engineering, manufacturing of different boat and marine trade components. They applied for it in 2012, the Port of Bellingham did. They approved it in 2013. And just now are they ready to move forward with the project. That's why the budget supplemental came in. Sorry, I couldn't recall that off the top of my head earlier today.
Okay, thanks,
Great.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay, council member updates. Mr. Weimer?
Got to be in Washington DC tomorrow to testify to Congress, so looking to get home.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Brown?
Last week I went down to Olympia and managed to talk to 5 of our 6 Whatcom County legislators on, at least speaking from myself, for support on MOCTA funding the Kendall Road Highway project, which really, that one really does bring tears to my eyes. Bridget Collins is looking at expanding into Mount Vernon. For those of you who are not familiar, it's just an absolutely outstanding organisation, and several other projects. So,
I got nothing. Ms. Brenner?
Just the Whatcom County Farm Forestry Association is going to have their annual tree sale, and 90 cents a piece. They have the most gorgeous trees, and they're real healthy. So if people need to buy trees at an incredible price, or even if you don't, you just like want to go buy some, do it. These guys are wonderful. It's March 19th. 10 to 12 at the Henry Jansen Agricultural Center. So, and for information, this is the most important part, 671-6988.
And Barbara, where is that Henry Jansen Agricultural Center located?
I got a feeling it's at the fairgrounds. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's right on there. Okay. That was a
Well, I just
test.
wanted to make sure that
Oh.
the public knew.
Oh, okay, right.
Mr. Donovan?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Anything else for the good of the order? We are adjourned.